Hello everybody, I hope you're all doing well today. Today we're going to be learning about the ukulele. When most people think of ukuleles, they think of Hawaii. And it is extremely popular in Hawaii, but it wasn't always this way. In a little island outside of Portugal called the Madeira Islands, which is right here, there used to be guitars, tiny guitars, that were shaped almost like figure eights. Their bodies were. They were called machetes. Now in 1879, Portuguese travelers, traders, settlers landed in Hawaii, which is in the Pacific Ocean. And with them they brought their machete guitars. And the story goes that they were so happy when they landed on the shores, they were so happy to get there that they immediately started playing their music. And the native Hawaiians saw these guitars and saw that their fingers were jumping like fleas. And therefore, the name ukulele roughly translates from Hawaiian to English to mean jumping flea. Now as you can see, here I have a soprano ukulele. And it's almost shaped, the body, like a figure eight. In about 1915, or around the early 1900s, the ukulele finally became popular in the mainland of America, and companies started manufacturing them in all shapes and sizes. So we have the triangular shape, the figure eight shape, there's also a pineapple shape that's more shaped like an oval, and that's what gave rise to the different types of ukuleles. There are several different types of ukuleles. This here is a soprano, it's the highest pitched. Actually there's a sopranino ukulele that's a little bit smaller, and that's pitched even higher, but that's not as common. This is one of the more common ones, the soprano. There's also a alto ukulele, which is known as the standard concert. That's also very common. Also very common is the tenor ukulele. And last but not least, I have a baritone ukulele here. That's also pretty common. That's the lowest one that's common. There is actually also a bass ukulele, but that's much more rare. It's tuned much lower. Now, a ukulele is different from a guitar in that it has 4 strings. 1, 2, 3, 4. Nowadays, the strings of a ukulele are made of either nylon, like this, also like this, the clear, or what's called a gut string, which what that means is there's tiny animal hide that's wrapped up very tiny and encased by a metal, you hear that metal wrapping. Now of course nowadays they most often use synthetic material, it's not actually animal innards, but that's what it used to be. Some of the other parts of the ukulele are the body. Now in this case this is the baritone and it's triangular, and others are more curved. There are several different sizes and shapes of the body. This body is also made of wood. Others can be made of synthetic material or just plain plastic. This right here is called the sound hole, and that's where the sound resonates after the strings are plucked. Again, there are 4 strings. And if you didn't have the sound hole, it would sound something like this. The strings would be plucked, but they wouldn't make any sound. This piece of wood here, the black piece, is called the bridge. It's where the bottom of the strings are tied in. And here's what this bridge on the soprano looks like. Working our way up, this black part here is called the neck, the whole thing. And on top is what's called the fingerboard, because this is where you place your fingers to make different sounds. Each of these lines, going this way, are called frets. So for example, this is the 1st fret, 2nd fret, 3rd fret, 4th, 5th, and so on and so on and so on. And the purpose of the frets is to shorten the string to make a different sound. So for open string, 1st fret. As I play higher and closer to the bridge, it makes a higher pitched sound because it's a smaller string. Continuing our way up, this is called the nut. This is the head of the ukulele. And these guys are called tuning pegs. And what they do, you turn them to either raise or lower the pitch to make sure that they're in tune. So for an example, everyone take a minute and play some strings and see if you can find raise and lower the pitch. So I'm sure you're really excited to start playing the ukulele, so let's get started. To hold it, regardless of whether you have a soprano ukulele or a baritone ukulele, the left hand rests on the fingerboard, and it doesn't matter what fret for right now, just take your left hand and rest it on the fingerboard, just like this. And your right hand, everyone wave your right hand, is the strumming hand. So for now, just rest it against your chest, and you're going to bend your arm slightly so that you can strum. Now let me show this on the baritone real quick for those of you who have baritones. It's going to be a little bigger. So for that one, you're going to rest the bottom of the body almost in your armpit, under your arm. Again, left hand on the fingerboard and right hand strum. Now, before we start playing, we need to learn the notes. On the soprano ukulele, if you have that, from left to right, the notes are G, C, E, A. So everyone take a minute, play your G, now play your C, now play your E, and now play your A. Good. On the baritone ukulele, our four notes are, from left to right, or closest to you to farthest away, are D, G, B, and E. So if you notice, those are different than the soprano. This is much lower. Take another minute to play all of the open strings. Remember, D, G, B, and E. Once you've got those down, let's start working on a strumming pattern. The most common strumming pattern, and we're not going to worry about the left hand, we'll just play them on open strings. Now before we actually strum, I want you to move your hand up and down, shake your hand out, everyone shake your hand out, get nice and loose. Now the motion is from your elbow. It's not just your wrist, it's all the way from your elbow. Alright? So over top of the ukulele, you're going to strum, well when you strum, you'll strum in between the bottom of the fingerboard and the sound post, or sound hole, excuse me. Sometimes you strum right over the sound hole. I like to strum right in between. And the motion is going to be nice and loose, up and down. So the pattern is going to go something like down, down, up, up, down, up, down, down, up, down, up. Now if you notice, in order to do that, you have to be going down, up, down, up, down, up the whole time. But you're only going to make contact on the down, down, up, down, 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 up, down, up. Everyone try this with me. Ready? 1, 2, 3, and down, down, up, down, down, up, down, up. Good. So from this point on, I'm only going to be using the baritone ukulele. I'd be happy to show you the fingerings on the soprano ukulele. They're only a little bit different. So, the first chord we're going to learn is the G chord. You're going to take, remember this is your left hand on the fingerboard, on the 1, 2, 3, the 3rd fret with your 3rd finger on the E string. The very first one, and you're going to place it down lightly, but enough so that the string, instead of being open, comes in contact with this fret. Okay? How about you strum on the E string with your third finger down. On just that string. Then, if you strum on the rest of the strings, it makes a G chord. And the notes are D, G, B, and G. Now let's take a minute and do our strumming pattern in the G chord. Ready? 1, 2, 1 and 2 and 3 and go. Good. The next chord we're going to learn is the C chord. This one involves two fingers, your first finger and your middle finger. On the D string, the one closest to you on top, you're going to put your middle finger on the second fret. Just like that. Now this may be a little hard to see. With your index finger on the first fret of the second string, right here. That's where your index finger is going to go. So together, you have the 1 and 2, like that. And this is a C chord. The notes in this are E, G, C, and E. Let's take another minute and do the strumming pattern on the C chord. Good. As you get more comfortable, you'll be able to move a little bit faster. Like that. Now, before we go on, remember the G chord. Remember the C chord. Let's practice switching between the two. Like that. With me, we'll go 4 beats of the G chord with our strumming pattern, or one strumming pattern worth of the G chord, and then one more strumming pattern worth of the C, and back to G, and back to C. Ready? 1, 2, 3, and. So, after you're comfortable with the G and the C chords, and take a minute if you need to, let's go on. The next chord we're going to learn is the D chord. It sounds like this. From lowest to highest, the bottom string, E string, or first string actually, your middle finger, second finger, on the second fret. On the B string, second string, your third finger on the third fret. And on the third string, the G string, your first finger on the second fret. So it'll look like that and sound like that, because the notes are D, D, I'm sorry, this is an A, D, A, D, and F sharp, and that makes the D major chord. So let's take a minute if you need to do your strumming pattern on the D chord. Okay? And if you think you're ready, let's go from the G chord to the C chord, back to the G chord, and then to the D chord. Okay? Now take a minute, try that on your own. And when you're ready, let's do, so 2 strumming pattern. each chord. Remember, we're going G, C, G, D, and back to G. With me? 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, and. Back to G, D, and G. Good. Our last chord that we're going to learn is the E chord. Well, this is actually an E minor chord. And it sounds like this. All you need to do for this is use your second finger on the second fret of the D string, the first string. So let's practice going from the G chord to the E chord. Let's do that with a strumming pattern. 1, 2, 3, and. E and G. Back to E and G. Good. Take a minute, or a few if you need it, and work your way around all 4 chords. Remember, we have G, C, D, and E minor.